Well, it's the next day after the failure, the miserable failure of attempting to solder the Zamek bracket. So what I've done now is I've decided I'm going to go with the good old JB weld, used on a million repairs over the years, probably. It's been around for a long time, and I actually went online and checked, and sure enough, there is ample evidence online of people doing successful repairs with JB weld on Zamek. So this is what we're going to go with. So for starters, I already cleaned the residue initially off with parts cleaner, the degreaser, the 3M degreaser, and now I'm going to use the wire wheel again. Now unfortunately my alignment is kind of screwed up on this now, because in the attempt last night to solder this, I actually got the temperature high enough that you can actually see where my thumb is right here. There is actually now a gap, because I actually got this hot enough that I started to melt the Zamek. Turns out the Zamek has a melting point at something like 700 or 900 degrees, so it's a low melting point, and that's part of the reason why I had so much trouble soldering this thing. As soon as I start getting solder up to the proper melting temperature, I'm melting the alloy. Okay, I had to put something underneath there to support it. I put a large nut underneath there to support it now, because I need to keep that at the proper angle. Before, when this gap wasn't there, it was a lot easier, but now because of what because of my misstep, and actually even that's actually the correct angle, so I'm going to adjust this up even a little more, and that looks pretty good. Side to side, looks about right. I noticed this piece wasn't perfectly true. It didn't look like it was coming down. This part wasn't perpendicular to this anyways, and that was probably just part of the imperfections in the original casting. So now I've got this all cleaned up and ready to go, so time to mix up my JB weld. So I'm going to get something that I can use as a stirring stick and an applicator. Alright, so for a little surface to mix my epoxy in, I'll use this little jar lid. For a stirring stick, I'll use this nail. And then for an applicator, I'll use this little piece of wood shaving that I've got here. Makes a nice little spatula. Now all I have to do is squeeze out an equal amount of the A component and the B component into the container here, and then thoroughly mix it. And what you've got is one component is black and one component is white. So the beauty is you can see when it's thoroughly mixed, when you have a uniform gray appearance. And it always seems like one side wants to squeeze out a little more than the other. Why is that always the case? It's always the case. So I'll just add a little more black. Yeah, that's pretty good right there. You see a little bits of white swirls in there. You don't want any little black or white swirls in there. That means you haven't mixed that in. Now, alright, that's looking good. So, I'm going to use my other tool now to scoop some out and get it in there on my part. I hear my wife's footsteps going up the stairs with some urgency. That would indicate to me, since the kids are supposed to be asleep, that somebody is about to get yelled at. That means that somebody is up making noise. So I already like the way that side looks. Turn this around. And load up this side now. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of building up right along this rib here, so that the part that's going to span the crack right here is also going to be given some extra strength by hopefully blending right in. So now I'm putting some into that void that I created last night with the soldering disaster. Alright. That's pretty much the last amount I've got here on the stick now. I think I've got more on this side than on this side, so I think I'll go back to this side. Yeah, there we go. Right up in this area right here. Now I am kind of close to those bolt holes here, but my thinking there is that if I have to come back and grind out a little bit to get the bolt head to fit in there, I'm willing to live with that. I'm trying to get this as smooth as possible too. The more it looks like the casting around, the prettier it'll be. I don't really care about looks. This is more of a, hopefully a function issue. Try and put some on the back side after this sets up, but I'm not even sure what good that's going to do because of the way that that part sticks so closely to the crack is so close to the part that actually is flush up against the bed, so I think I'm going to have a lot of room there to work. Don't look too bad. Now I think I got more on that side than I do on this side. You can see actually a crack exposed down there. I could also build this up. In other words, I could wait for this to set up and then come back and go right over this whole area again and build it up even further. It's a little cool down here, and I think that might be affecting the viscosity of this JB weld. All right. Well, I think I'm going to quit right there. And the JB Weld, there's two formulas for JB Weld. There's another formula which is a quick setting formula, but I noticed that the strength when cured on this is 3,960 psi. It's lower on the quick curing stuff, so you give something up for the quick curing option. So I decided I'll be a little more patient and go with the original formula, which is our strongest epoxy according to this here. And then on the back here it tells you it sets in 20 to 25 minutes, it cures in 15 to 24 hours. Allow 4 to 6 hours before handling and 15 hours minimum before putting object back in use. Why don't I just give it the full 24 hours? I think that's what I'm going to do. Well, it's about 3 o'clock the next day, so it has not been 24 hours, but I'm coming down here because this should be set up enough so that I can safely take it out of the vise here and discover that I almost, oh, good thing that's a very filthy bolt nut there, because some of it, you can see it actually dripped down here and ran down onto the nut, but it came right off no problem because the nut was not clean. So basically what that does for me though is now I can get a good look at the back side here and see where I could now probably put in a little bit right here to try and strengthen this joint. You see the crack's a little separated, so not perfect, but most of your holding strength is going to be here where I built this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if this is soft enough for me to actually cut it with a utility knife. If not, then I'll have to just file that off. I'm going to file that off flush and that off flush and then run a bead right across here. Yeah, this stuff is shaving off fairly easily with the blade, so it's kind of the consistency of hard wax right now. So I would say that is far from fully cured. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up this side right here with another bead of the stuff, and then I'm going to take it upstairs where it's warmer and let it get some heat going to it. That should help speed up the curing time. That thin layer is not going to do too much, but it's better than having nothing on that back side. I've actually decided not to put another coating on this side here because this is built up pretty well. I think now the key here is going to be to just make sure that this is fully cured before I try and put it into service. And then we keep our fingers crossed. Yeah, instead of bringing it upstairs and worrying about somebody disturbing it like one of the kids, I stuck it here on one of the supply pipes to the hydronic heating system. So the water in that pipe's coming out at between 90 and 100 degrees, so that should keep it nice and toasty warm and hopefully help it cure. Yeah, it looks like it's just below 95 degrees here.